Imagine you are piloting a spacecraft hurtling toward Jupiter. From a distance, it looks magnificent and peaceful, like a painted masterpiece with swirling bands of cream and orange and the stately great red spot. But as you get closer, fear begins to grip your mind. The radiation warning system suddenly screams out, sophisticated equipment becomes paralyzed, and screens flicker wildly due to interference. You realize with horror that you are diving straight into the clutches of a cosmic monster. Jupiter was never a gentle giant, but rather a horror nightmare hiding in plain sight. Right now, we will explore why humanity's toughest technologies dissolve when facing it. Let's unmask the brutal true face of Jupiter. Most people don't truly grasp the insane scale we are dealing with when it comes to this planet. Jupiter isn't just big. It is unfathomably massive beyond the reach of normal human thought, exceeding every geometric limit our brains can imagine. To help you visualize it, did you know you could fit over 1,300 Earths right inside it? Our planet is like a tiny marble dropped into an endless, vast jar. That jar is the immense interior of Jupiter, a place that could swallow thousands of worlds like ours without leaving a trace. In terms of mass, Jupiter is 2.5 times the total mass of all the other planets, all the moons, and all the asteroids in the solar system combined. Its weight acts like a deep gravity well that dominates the entire outer reaches of space. If you put all the matter of every celestial body orbiting the Sun on one side of a scale, the result would be staggering. That side would include rocky planets like Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. It would also include the ice giants and millions of asteroids wandering the solar system. Yet, on the other side of the scale, Jupiter would still outweigh them all twice over. This tyrannical weight has made it the supreme coordinator, shaping the orbits of every object around it. But here is what is truly unsettling and touches the edge of a cosmic mystery. Jupiter is essentially a failed star. It carries a chemical structure almost identical to the Sun, composed primarily of hydrogen and helium, but fate denied it the chance to shine. Advanced astrophysical calculations point to an incredible truth. If it had gathered just 80 times its current mass during the accretion of matter in the primordial solar disk billions of years ago, the history of the universe would have taken a devastating turn. Upon reaching that threshold of extreme density, the pressure and temperature at the core would have been compressed so severely that they would cross the limit to trigger hydrogen nuclear fusion, which is the energy spark of an eternal star. At that point, it would have ignited into a dim red dwarf, constantly releasing terrifying streams of thermal radiation into deep space. In that case, we would not have a massive gas planet, but rather a second sun, turning this entire region into a chaotic binary star system with two opposing gravitational forces constantly tearing at each other. Under the gravity and heat of two suns, Earth might have been baked into a deathly desert. It could have been kicked out of a stable orbit to drift into the frozen void of the universe. Or perhaps it never would have had the chance to form from the primordial dust at all. Instead, destiny kept it in a state of limbo, a half-planet, half-star entity. It is an uncrowned king possessing a raging internal energy that is perhaps scarier and more freakish than a normal star. Now, let's zoom in on Jupiter's atmosphere to see its true nature. What you see through a telescope is not normal weather, but rather chaos on a scale that defies every standard law of physics. It is an arena for aerodynamic beasts, where orange, white, and brown cloud bands intertwine, constantly swirling and tearing at each other under the harsh conditions of space. The Great Red Spot alone, its most famous anticyclonic superstorm, has raged for at least 400 years since humans invented the telescope, and its actual lifespan could be much longer. This single storm is so huge, it could swallow the entire Earth with room left for shifting continents, like a tiny marble lost in a fiery basin. Wind speeds at the edge of the storm exceed 400 kilometers per hour. And terrifyingly, that number is considered calm by the standards of this planet's dynamics. As you go deeper into the stratosphere, internal jet streams tear the planet apart at even more horrific speeds, reaching over 600 kilometers per hour. These are not light breezes. They are massive walls of hydrogen and helium gas moving faster than the speed of sound on Earth, creating violent shockwaves ready to shred any man-made structure or probe into scrap in an instant. But those frantic storms are not the scariest part. The deeper you go, the worse things get because of one core truth. Jupiter has no solid surface. There isn't a single meter of solid ground to land on, no rock or valley to plant a flag or build a shelter. Deep inside, the atmosphere simply thickens into a supercritical fluid, a strange hybrid state that is half gas and half liquid, where darkness becomes dense and pressure increases exponentially with every kilometer of descent. At a certain depth, the pressure becomes so extreme that hydrogen, a gas that is light and airy on Earth, is compressed until its free electron bonds break completely, turning it into a bizarre form of matter called liquid metallic hydrogen. A vast, deep and hot ocean of liquid metallic hydrogen making up most of the planet's volume sounds like science fiction, but it is entirely real under Jupiter's extreme conditions. At 40 times the limit, a small seed does not stay small. A black hole of a few million suns could swell toward 1 billion. Toward true monstrousness inside the narrow first act of the universe, fast enough to become exactly the kind of thing astronomers could not explain. Run the early universe forward under the old rules, and the giants simply never arrive. The seed is too small. The clock is too short. The arithmetic strands them in the cradle, half grown, at the very moment the real cosmos shows them already vast, already burning, already monstrous. Unless Something had been feeding them, like this. And that is the moment the unease turns cold, because LID 568 is not just a record being broken, it is a demonstration. Space calculations show that if this field could emit visible light, it would appear in the night sky several times larger than our full moon, a majestic and overwhelming ghost swallowing the horizon. This magnetic force reaches out millions of kilometers into deep space, stretching as far as the orbit of Saturn and forming the largest invisible structure in the entire solar system. This massive magnetic trap catches all charged particles from solar wind and ions from the moons, especially the abundant sulfur and oxygen spewed from the volcanoes of the moon Io, and accelerates them to a frantic velocity near the speed of light. These highly excited particles form radiation belts so intense they can immediately break chemical bonds, destroy biological cell structures, dissolve DNA, and kill an unprotected human in just a few short minutes. Look at how humanity's toughest machines are tortured by it to see this brutality. When NASA's Juno spacecraft entered Jupiter's orbit in 2016, top engineers struggled to find a way to survive. They had to build a special radiation vault made of ultra-thick titanium weighing 200 kilograms just to protect the core electronics from being blasted by charged particles that cause short circuits and destroy control systems. Even with that heavy armor, Juno only dares to make close flybys for a few hours at a time to gather quick data before immediately fleeing to a safer, distant orbit to avoid being fried by the extreme radiation. Even more horrific was the fate of the Galileo probe in 2003, a powerful testament to the absolute destruction of this gas planet. Before its suicide plunge into Jupiter's atmosphere to end its mission, the craft entered the center of the magnetic trap and was hit with a radiation dose equivalent to 25 million dental X-rays at once. That brutal storm of charged particles completely paralyzed all sensors and computer memory, turning humanity's most advanced technological entity into a brainless hunk of metal right before extreme mechanical pressure crushed it into dust. This is not a peaceful planet sitting quietly in a corner of space. We must look directly at what Jupiter has done to the world around it throughout history. From a close-up view, Jupiter is a literal cosmic wrecking ball, an entity with system-level manipulation power. Its mighty gravity fundamentally and ruthlessly altered the formation of the solar system from the beginning, reshaping the order of the planets with an iron fist. To explain this, space scientists proposed a shocking theory called the Grand Tack hypothesis. Simulations show that early in history, when the planets were just young masses of matter, Jupiter was not in its current stable position, but migrated deep into the inner core, approaching the current orbit of Mars like a violent invader. Along that path of migration, its monster gravity scattered planetary debris, consumed young rocky worlds, and blocked the nutrients that would have allowed Mars to grow to full size. This is also why the asteroid belt exists today between Mars and Jupiter. That belt is not debris from a large planet that exploded. It is actually a desolate wasteland, a graveyard of planetary embryos that never had the chance to form because of Jupiter's selfish gravitational interference. But the gravitational influence of this tyrant is not just ancient history. It continues every second to this day, like an invisible ruling ghost. Any comet, asteroid, or stray object drifting in space is strongly affected by its orbit. Nothing can escape that control. Jupiter acts like a ruthless gravitational vacuum cleaner. It either swallows them, throws them into the sun to be incinerated, or uses a slingshot effect to hurl them out of the solar system forever into the cold void of space. In 1994, humanity witnessed this destructive power in person and in real time when comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 passed through its influence. It was a terrifying display of celestial mechanics. The comet was violently captured by Jupiter's gravity and torn into 21 large fragments before each one plunged into the atmosphere at speeds up to 60 kilometers per second. These consecutive impacts left black scars in the atmosphere larger than Earth's diameter, releasing energy equivalent to millions of strategic nuclear bombs and shaking the solar system. If that comet had hit Earth, it would have been the total extinction of every living thing, a final chapter with no second chance for humanity. Some scientists argue that Jupiter is our shield, acting as a giant outer bodyguard. But dynamics research reveals a darker side, showing its gravity also constantly redirects dangerous objects from the icy Oort cloud or Kuiper belt toward the inner planets, directly threatening Earth. The chilling truth is that Jupiter both grants life by shielding us and stands ready to take everything away when it changes an orbit. A guardian with the face of a destroyer. You might think that if the mother planet is so scary, at least its system of moons would be safe havens or promised lands for the future of humanity. After all, Europa has a vast liquid ocean hidden under its crust, and Ganymede is the largest moon in the solar system. These are places where humanity has its highest hopes for finding alien life. But the harsh reality is that even Jupiter's moons are surviving in a radiation, hell, and brutal gravitational interaction. A space with no room for mercy. The moon Io, at the closest range, is the most volcanic body known in the universe. All of this mad heat does not come from internal radioactive decay or core heat like Earth, but entirely from the massive gravity of Jupiter and nearby moons, constantly squeezing and kneading its internal rock like dough. This extreme tidal force causes Io's crust to stretch up and down by hundreds of meters, creating maximum internal friction and forcing toxic sulfur lava to erupt constantly, shooting hundreds of kilometers into space and reshaping the entire surface in just a few years, turning it into a world of eternal fire. Meanwhile, although Europa has a promising liquid ocean beneath, where the first seeds of life might be stirring, its icy shell is locked tightly inside Jupiter's lethal radiation belt. The amount of radiation hitting Europa's surface reaches deadly levels in just a few hours. A stream of energy that is invisible yet cruel. Any future lander looking for life would be forced to drill through miles of hard ice just to use it as a natural shield, while any exposed electronics on top would be shredded every hour by the endless radiation. Even Ganymede, the only moon in the solar system with its own magnetic field, has its weak resistance completely choked and neutralized by the overwhelming magnetic attack of the mother planet. Jupiter's magnetic field is like an all-encompassing hand, easily swallowing and crushing Ganymede's tiny shield. These satellites are not peaceful oases. They are permanent prisoners, held captive and tortured by gravity and radiation in the orbit of a monster. Let's pause here to look at the groundbreaking big picture that the latest astrophysics research has revealed about the true nature of this giant. Jupiter isn't just dangerous in one way. It integrates every mechanism of destruction at once, including crushing mechanical pressure, lethal ionizing radiation, captive gravity, and frantic aerodynamic storms. It is a perfect combination of the most extreme conditions in the universe. There is no safe corner or approach to this world, and every robotic mission we send there is a suicide flight with a countdown, a hopeless race against nature's destruction. But why can a gas planet maintain such violent and steady power for billions of years? Heat flow measurements from the Juno spacecraft confirmed the strange fact that Jupiter emits more than twice the heat it receives from the Sun. This independent emission is explained by slow gravitational contraction via the Kelvin-Helmholtz effect, meaning it doesn't rely on solar energy to power its eternal storms. It generates energy from within as an extreme, independent entity, a massive self-sufficient reactor for the frantic dances of its atmosphere. Furthermore, when scientists used gravity waves to look through the thick clouds, they completely overturned the traditional solid core model found in old textbooks. The latest data proves Jupiter has a diffuse core, a chaotic region where rock and ice are dissolved directly into the liquid metallic hydrogen ocean, extending nearly half the planet's radius. In this structure, there are no clear boundaries and no solid planetary core at all. This bizarre structure is likely the remnant of head-on collisions that swallowed large, rocky planetary embryos billions of years ago during the chaotic formation of the solar system. Those foreign materials, unfortunate planets once defeated by it, are still being held, shredded, broken down, and dissolved inside the monster like a cosmic stomach that never stops its digestion. It doesn't just rule the solar system by size, but by assimilating everything that dares to stand in its way into eternal darkness. The very things that are scariest and most extreme about Jupiter are the most valuable scientific data for humanity, because its unique liquid metallic hydrogen structure teaches us how gas giants form in deep space, and its harsh radiation is a natural particle physics lab that helps break normal physical limits. But no matter how much we understand, the ultimate nature of this planet remains unchanged. It represents a rigid and cold cosmic boundary, an impassable line. It is a world humans can only observe through lenses from a great distance. We can never set foot there, build colonies, or tame the atmosphere. It is a constant reminder that the vast universe was not designed or fine-tuned for human survival, as we are clearly not the center of everything. This is a sobering reality for our place in space. Jupiter has stood there for 4.5 billion years, ruling this entire space since before the first primordial life cells appeared on Earth. And it will surely remain there long after humanity vanishes from history. Throughout the vast stretch of time, It has never stopped being violent, never stopped being deadly, and never stopped its hunger for gravitational manipulation. It is a lonely and ruthless god of the solar system. When you look up at the quiet night sky and see Jupiter as a bright, steady yellow dot that feels peaceful, be smart enough to recognize this visual trick of the cosmic void. You are not looking at a gentle neighbor in the dark. You are looking directly into a stormy hell that has raged since before dinosaurs walked the Earth. A great and frantic reactor. You are looking at a source of ionizing radiation that can tear DNA and kill you in minutes, and a ruthless gravity well that decides the life and death of surrounding worlds. Jupiter is not the king of planets because of any noble or protective quality. It is king simply because nothing else in this solar system is strong enough to survive long enough under its influence to challenge that throne. Its power is built entirely on absolute destruction. Our solar system is much more violent than its peaceful appearance suggests, and Jupiter is the strongest proof of the brutality of space. If you enjoyed this deep dive into astronomy, consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss the next cosmic journeys.